My name is Bob Souza. Welcome to Out of the Park here on SATV, Channel 9, historic Main Street in Somerset Village. My guest today, one of the truly great high school players of our time here in Somerset, started with us in December of 1972, four-year starter, graduated as captain of our team in 1976. I welcome the great Claude Tetreault, Somerset High School, class of 76. Claude, welcome to the show.
Thank you, Bob. Thank you very much.
Can you tell us what it was like starting out, trying out for the team, December 1972?
Well, I know there were a lot of other players out on that ice, and in itself, it was intimidating to be part of, I believe, around 80 players who were showing up to try out. But as a freshman, just getting accustomed to the school, and then the excitement of the possibility of playing on a high school team, and the awkwardness of wondering as a freshman, can you actually make this team? You know, all the goals you scored in the youth hockey and all those things were nice, but would it cut it when it came to making the high school team? So it was really an honor to get there in my freshman year.
Right. When you have 60 individuals who aren't going to make it, there is a lot of stress. And of course, competing against you would be, maybe 15, 20 seniors. The same in the junior class, and the sophomore class had about 20 also. So basically 20 per class, going for a total of 20 spots. What happened, Claude, was that Mr. McDermott, our principal, and Mr. Mahoney, our athletic director, had met with the superintendent of schools, Mr. Kilgrew, and the school committee had urged them to take an interest in a league, a proposed league that was to be formed in 1972 of interested high schools. So at that particular time, they asked me to go to New Bedford to the Moby Dick Arena, which had opened in the summer of '82. The meeting would take place the first Monday after the football season ended, first Monday after Thanksgiving. 8 schools appeared there, and lo and behold, we were able to form a league. I'll just run through quickly the schools. In the upper division, the large schools, Somerset, Dartmouth, Taunton, and New Bedford High School. The lower division, smaller type schools, Coyle Cassidy and Fairhaven, New Bedford Vocational, and the Bristol Aggie School. So it was proposed that we have a league that would play 10 weeks, 10 Mondays in the Moby Dick Arena. You would play 2 games each against your upper division teams, and 1 game against the lower division team. So it was a 10-game schedule, 10 Monday nights. Each team would be allowed 2 other nights for practice and or games. So everything was restricted and regulated then. And lo and behold, that was the beginning 40 years ago in 1972. Your thoughts on the tryouts?
Well, I think I was numb. I just remember doing a lot of figure eights. And again, I would so much to say about good coaching during the time with you. Obviously, one of the Somerset's most prolific coaches who ever got behind the bench, and had good coaches beforehand. So that some of those skills, those fundamentals, and now that I have 2 boys playing, we talk about skills, we encourage skills, and while the kids want to play the games, that makes such an important difference. And I'm thinking that ultimately, when you're looking at 80 kids, that those who had those foundational skills, it made it not easy, but easier to start to narrow down the field. So that I thank the coaches that came before.
I had the opportunity to skate with your brothers out on open air ice, Swansea Dam, the marsh here in Somerset, and of course, each one played for me in other sports. Dennis was an outstanding running back. Dennis Tetreault, class of '69, played with Larry Thomas. They were the top running backs on our JV team. Each went on to a stellar career in varsity football under Coach Sullivan. And Richard middle brother, Richard Tetreault, played first base for me with the JV baseball team playing out of Pottersville Field.
Right.
He was an outstanding pond skater, outdoor skater,
Right.
also. Big, strong guy. Came close to high school hockey, missing it by a year and a half to 2 years.
Right.
And then, of course, on came the youngest of the Tetreault family, Claude, whom I played against sparingly on the ice because I thought at that time you were too young and I was too old, so I did not want to get any bruises running into your elbows, which were quite distinct at that time.
Right.
Mr. and Mrs. Tetreault went to every practice and every game in which you participated in high school. Could you tell us a little bit about your mom and dad and the background growing up in Granby, Quebec?
Well, yeah, and you know, we talked about that a little bit earlier. The connection to Canada and Granby and Quebec particularly definitely had a large influence, not only on the ice but off the ice, in terms of the passion for the game. You know, when I even coming here today and deciding should I wear a Somerset High School shirt or should I wear a Canadian shirt, which I know wouldn't be popular, but it was shirt and tie because that's what you did in Canada. That's how the coaches approached the game. That was the reverence for the game. And my parents were very passionate, not just because they were, but it was a family thing to do in Canada. When they talk about hockey night in Canada and Saturday night, it was a family gathering. And that kind of influence and background as we came to the States. My parents were 30 years old when they came here. Not an easy transition. One wanted to go and explore the land of opportunity, and one wanted to stay home. And so they went through that challenge, but we came here. And hockey, as you said, my brothers love to be out in those ponds. I think that's why Canadians have had an advantage, particularly in the past, is they are on the ponds. They get those hours. They get that creative hockey that is tough to find today, especially. And, of course, I tagged along. I was part of that. And oftentimes when they played with the older kids, every once in a while I'd be able to squeeze into a game. Maybe I'd be the goalie to start and I would wiggle out a little bit. But, you know, that kind of exposure and that kind of passion in the house and then as it transferred onto the ponds was, I'm sure, an important beginning for me.
While your high school career was certainly magnificent, you were one of the few players to play every game at the same position. In the history of Somerset High School ice hockey, your totals for goals and assists as a left winger rank right up there, #1 in each category: goals, assists, and points for a person who played left wing. And that's pretty good, considering we've been around 40 years. So you were really terrific. If we could go back, take a look at some of the early guys you played with. We have, let's see, this is 76, your senior year. And this particular year, this and your junior year, you played with 2 freshmen. Played with Ron Marcellus and Scott Strohmeyer. Junior year, they were freshmen, you were a junior. Senior year, you played with the same 2 fellas. They were now sophomores. Of course, Ron went on to set the state scoring record, which he held for about a decade. And the high school record he kept for about 18 years. It was just surpassed by Nathan Taylor in 1996, I believe. Nathan still holds the record. And when Ron found out that his record was broken, he was very gracious, very happy, as he told me he wished the young man good luck. And thanks for breaking my record, because it meant that people would still remember me. How about some of the men in the pictures here? Could you relate them as your classmates and teammates?
Well, just to comment what you mentioned, the guys that I played with junior, senior year, the fact that we stayed together, they were younger, but it really is a team sport. And, you know, my thrust, and I still promote it today to kids, that an assist is as valuable, oftentimes more valuable than the goal. And so that's where I focus. That's where I put my focus. That's really where I wanted to be, as proficient as I could be. And then you have a guy like Marcellus who could put the puck in the net in whatever configuration his body was in. He could get that thing on a stick and make something happen. And But the guy we're not talking about here is Scott Strohmeyer. Now, here's, again, you create a team, not a few individuals. He worked hard. It was a name that wasn't mentioned that often, but it's a line, and it takes all three. And he just, again, very humbly and worked hard all the time. And so it was just great to have that kind of chemistry that resulted in the things and the successes we had. But yeah, the guys that are there, I mean, it's just great to, you look at the faces. I mean, coming in as freshmen, and again, you would know if did we all come in as freshmen? Was that the collaboration of guys, or was anybody who came in later now? Because
I would say Jim Vitale and Scott Kelleher came in as sophomores.
Sophomores, okay. And
so they played 3 years, 4-year men, the rest of them. Freshman line would be you at left wing, Donald Parks at center, Bob Gardella at right wing, Paul LaFlamme, defenseman. Bob Gardella had to make the switch sophomore year to defense because the freshman year defensemen were all wiped out.
Right.
Graduation took Gary Breen, Mike Haywood, and Edmund Nunes was involved in music activity.
Right.
3 or 4 nights a week he had to retire, and that was it. We had to convert Bob Gardella, Rick Horton to defensemen. Of course, Jack Dater was a stellar defenseman for 3 years, his sophomore, junior, and senior year. Jack was certainly the best defenseman around. Mm-hmm. So he was the only veteran defenseman that we could count on consistently.
Right.
Your second year, sophomore year, you played with 2 seniors, Dave Vitale, great center man, great passer, and Steve Paskowski, right wing, who was a very talented player, very good goal scorer, very good checker. So that was pretty good. And of course, the first year was the freshman line with you and Donald Parks at center and Bob Gardella right wing.
Right, and as you asked the question about those players, I mean, again, they stayed together for the full 4 years, and even though we weren't necessarily on the same lines, it just was, again, the fact that they stayed with it and we stayed together as a team, which led to a few championships along the way.
Right, and you were the only man involved in the 2 championships as a regular. The first one was 1973 Bristol County League. The second one, Southeastern Mass Conference Division II in 1976. And because of your great work, 4 years at Somerset, we said goodbye Division II. You put us in Division I. We now had to take a regular turn against Barnstable, Falmouth, Dennis Yarmouth. Of course, we had already played New Bedford and Taunton. So, and Connolly. Taunton, Connolly, and Somerset were elevated to Division I. Bourne dropped out. They had never beaten Falmouth or Barnstable in 10 years. So they dropped to Division II. Dennis Yarmouth hadn't beaten them in 10 years. They had to stay. So it was difficult. And now we have the Dave Connect Award. Dave retired from the public school system in Somerset 1978, taught chemistry and biology, was the person to whom the yearbook of 1957, my class, was dedicated. So he was the man of the hour in 1957. Here he is some 20 plus years later, filming sports at Somerset. He did football, basketball, and ice hockey. So Mr. McDermott came to me along with some of the players and said, we ought to do something for Dave. Immediately, I thought, well, since he filmed all our hockey games, we should name the Most Valuable Player Award for him. So in '78, I was able to get the previous winners together to pose for this picture. Ken Bowers, 1973, Player of the Year in the Bristol County League out of New Bedford. And of course, the Standard Times was the paper of record that year, and it proclaimed him to be the #1 player in the league, and he was. He was fantastic. In '74, we had Dave Vitale. Dave wasn't available for this picture. He was Director of Automotive Technology in Derry, New Hampshire. Today, I believe he resides in Houston, Texas. So he's not here. '75, we have Jack Dater back left in the horizontal striped shirts. He was Defenseman of the Year in '75, his senior year. Great leader, great playmaker, and of course, great defenseman, getting the puck out of our own end, also breaking up opponent rushes. And we have you in '76 between Jack and Ron Marcellus, and of course, you were the man responsible for putting us in the big time, so to speak, Division I. On the left of Dave, right of Dave, left of our screen, 1977 Connect Award winner Bobby Stafford. He was captain following you, and he had the monumental task of leading a team of all underclassmen, juniors, sophomores, and freshmen into Cape Cod Division I ice hockey. And that was tough. And he did a terrific job as a senior and played great. Ron Marcellus followed Bobby in 1978. Ron was a recipient of a scholarship to Bowdoin, graduated Bowdoin in 1982, then played in Europe, played for the French national team in Europe. So these were the first 5 recipients of the Connect Award, followed by, let's see, in '79, Ron was followed by Bobby's middle brother. That would be Rick Stafford. Rick appears here at number 10, outstanding center, very, very skilled checker and passer, and great two-way player. And to the far part of the screen, we have Wayne Ferreira, who was a great defenseman, captain of the team, 1980. Wayne is a policeman in Somerset in today's world, and of course he was a policeman on the ice for us in 1980. '81, we had Scott Geary, goaltender par excellence, and '82, another great goaltender, Bob Sylvia. Here is Scott in this particular picture, 1981. Scott broke in as a freshman, replacing Fred Storch as goaltender. And in '82, brilliant goaltending by Bob Sylvia. Bob, on back-to-back games, a Saturday night in Falmouth, was victorious over Falmouth. 2 nights later, Barnstable came into Fall River, and he defeated them. The first time that had ever been done. And following graduation in '82, he went to UMass Dartmouth, where John Rawley, the New Bedford high school coach, had just become head coach of Division III, UMass Dartmouth. Called me immediately to get Bob's phone number and got Bob out for the team. Won 3 consecutive Division III college championships for UMass Dartmouth. Definitely one of the all-time great goaltenders in this area.
Great story.
The man in the middle, Mike Pomelo, a trainer who
Right.
came the year after you graduated, spent 33 years at Somerset, trainer in all the sports, but was a key man in ice hockey. Paul Martin was backup goalie in '82, later became a goaltender for you when you replaced me,
That's right.
'83, I believe. So that runs through the list of photos. I think we might have one of Jack Dater and Bobby Orr going way back to youth hockey. I know our technicians had run that before. The Bruins used to send a player to our city. Here's Kevin again. Kevin Snyder, great defenseman, class '78. Brian Paskowski, left wing for 3 years, center his senior year, class of '79. Brian might have been able to surpass your record for points and goals as a left winger, but the senior year we converted him to center, and he made 7 different newspaper all-star teams in that year to become the most proficient player in our league. So he ended up with more points than you did, but combined as a center and a left wing. But anyway, great guy. I know he played during your era. So that runs through the list of illustrations that we have. Your thoughts on anything going back to 1972 up to '76?
Well, I think that the whole initiative taken by, of course, the administration and specifically yourself to make this happen. I mean, there was obviously a powerful movement from the success of the Bruins that transferred into the area with the establishment of the state rinks, and so you made a decision, obviously, to go forward and to jump on that bandwagon, and your passion for the game and the area being ready for that. Again, for guys like me and everyone that you've talked about, you know, it was a gift, it was a blessing, and it's memories 40 years later that we can still share. So thank you and all those who got behind that.
Well, you're very kind to say that. I know that in '72 we were not recognized by the MIAA, could not compete in the tournament because you had to give 90 days notice that you had formed the league and you were ready to play. We formed the league in one night. It was amazing and how the coaches got together and formed an 8-team league, but it was too late to petition the MIAA in Boston to get us recognized because you needed 90-day notice. What we did is we borrowed from Wellington Mara, the owner of the New York Giants, who said the only way the NFL could survive was revenue sharing. So I usurped his idea and told the teams that if we went with expense sharing, we could make this go. So that first night, they put me on the scheduling committee with the late Ken Whitten of Bristol Aggies. Together we drew up a 10-game schedule, and we also set up a financial program where the 8 teams would share in the expenses of ice time, police security, timers, scorers, and referees would all come out of the gate so that 8 teams would survive financially and not go into debt. So that's what happened in 1972. A little bit of revenue sharing and a schedule which gave us credence that we were going to be here to stay, an established league. So we won the title in '73, 10-game schedule, we were undefeated, 9 wins, 1 tie with New Bedford Vocational, which they had the hot goaltender that night. Our goaltender, Bob Strohmeyer, was fantastic, had a career of 3 years with Somerset, 16 different shutouts, and of course you played in front of him for 3 of those years. The senior year, Fred Storch, your senior year, Fred's sophomore year, Fred continued the good play, got us in the playoffs. We made the tournament, and I believe we played in the Cape Cod Coliseum against Falmouth because they were scouting us and Hanover. Hanover had defeated them in the Christmas tournament in Falmouth, so we got to play Hanover in the Waltham Sports Center, which was up near Brandeis and Waltham. So Falmouth made the trip to scout Hanover, figuring they were going to murder us. But your goal and your assist propelled us to a 2-1 victory up there. And a shocker, Falmouth coach knocked at the locker room door at the end of the game, introduced himself, was Jim O'Brien, said he was shocked, came all the way up to Waltham to scout Hanover, and Hanover is upset by Somerset. Now he has to prepare for us. So 3 nights later, we went to the Cape Cod Coliseum, which sat about 8,000 fans for the Cape Cod Cubs minor league team. And Falmouth got off to a good start. They got 4 goals the first period. They beat us 4-2.
That Hanover game, as you're playing back the memory tapes, I can now remember that locker room between I believe the second and third period. The kind of I used the word passion before, but it was passion at the highest level where. Again, I can look. I can almost see back into the crowd. And there must have been 5 of the players with tears in their eyes, of just like so riveted that they were going to pull this off. That their whole career, in essence of high school career, was built into that. And we knew that we could do it. Yes, we were underdogs, but the drama and the excitement and the passion and just guys really challenging each other, calling each other out at what they needed or what they could do. that maybe they hadn't quite done yet. And that was, I can remember that locker room being a very powerful, probably the most powerful scene that I ever been in a locker room before.
Well, Freddie had really held us in there. He had
Yes.
made 40 stops, and I think their goaltender maybe had 15. So they were fast and very dominant, but we were good in our own end and would just execute if the other team made a mistake, got trapped up ice,
Right.
what have you. The only thing I stressed in the locker room, no penalties. We cannot play these fellas short-handed.
Right.
We're just about holding our own at full strength.
Right.
A penalty would be so devastating, it might cost us the game.
Right.
So we played the final period penalty-free
Right.
and hung on for a major upset.
Right.
It was great. And because of your work, that game, and for 4 years, we said goodbye Division II, and up in the division, we went to Division I to play Barnstable and Falmouth. And I know that first year, we made 4 trips to the Cape with Bobby Stafford replacing you as captain. In the first 4 trips, we won 1 game and tied 3. It's the only time that visiting teams never lost a game on the Cape. We defeated Bourne 5-2 and tied Falmouth 0-0, Barnstable 1-1, and Dennis Yarmouth 3-3. So, to tell you the truth, Claude, it almost seems like yesterday. My 10 years there, I thought I had the same team for 10 years. The system worked, the players worked. We got enormous support from the fans. It's been great having you with me today.
Thank you, Mr. Souza.
Brings back great memories.
Yes, they are.
This is Bob Souza stating, this is the end of our show. For Claude and myself, we'll be rounding third and heading home. Thank you.